Hello, warriors. Welcome to the U Movement. I am B, and I am doing a check-in with everyone to see how everyone's doing. We're still getting hit very heavily with solar flares coming in. Today is the 1010 portal. As I said in my last video, Saturn has gone retrograde, and we're veering up for Pluto to go direct. So there's lots of energy happening. You can see my cat there in the background. Arwen and I are outside enjoying some of the beautiful sun codes coming in and grounding some energy. And I wanted to talk today a little bit about when you cut off family, because I have noticed a theme that's happening in the collective right now is that a lot of people have come to that breaking point, and what that breaking point is the cycle breaking. Because if you, like me, have been raised in toxic environments, a lot of the interaction and ways that we connect to family it is a long generational pattern of toxic, sometimes narcissistic behavioral patterns. And you know, there's a lot out there of people that say things like, you know, you only live once, and family is family, and blood is thicker than water, and all of these things that are kind of guilt-inducing sentiments that keep you hooked in. It's this concept of obligation. And obligation is a word I struggle with, because obligation keeps you on the hook and in the cycle of being abused, because we excuse people's bad behaviors because they're family. And cutting off family is very difficult, and it's not something that anybody enters into lightly. It's not something that people think to themselves, you know, I just want to cut my family off. The opposite, in fact. What you want is for there to be healing, for there to be respect, for there to be value, for there to be integrity, for there to be honesty, for there to be those are the energies that you want. And so oftentimes we find ourselves caught in cycles of trying desperately to be heard, to be seen, to be understood, pleading for things to be different than they are, or altering ourselves and stonewalling, gaslighting ourselves, saying, you know, things aren't that bad if I just do this, if I just alter myself that way, if I just conform, if, you know, they're my family. So we excuse and excuse and excuse and excuse and excuse pretty crappy situations for decades. I did some writing over there on Facebook today about family and what that means to me, because it's something that's confused me my whole life. Because my biological family abandoned me for whatever reasons they had at the time. I do know some of those reasons, but from a child's point of view, none of those reasons were good enough. I can have empathy for the situation that they may have been in the 70s, and I'm not going to go into too much detail of that, but it felt like I was almost pre-programmed to empathize with them over being empathized with myself. And so I had to learn to empathize with myself, because even in my 30s, I met my biological parents, and I kept hearing about how bad it was for them. And I was like, I'm sorry things were so bad for you. But at no point did they show up for me or ask me how bad it was for me. And so when my awakening began, I cut off my biological family, because in the years that I had, come back into contact with them, they had never come to visit me or make an effort to initiate things with me. One biological brother did for a period of time, but I always found it was me reaching out. It was me reaching out. And then I was like, I've invited you to my home multiple times, and not once did any of those family members come to visit me. So I defriended them off of Facebook. As for my family that I was raised in, you know my history if you've been watching my channel. If you don't, hop on in to the narcissistic abuse playlist, because I equate my mother to be much like one of those animals in the wild that eats their young. She lacked the capacity to love. The treatment that I received from the time that I was adopted at age 2.5, 3 was torturous, in no uncertain terms. The physical, the emotional, the psychological fuckery was brutal, was absolutely brutal. And, I talk a lot about, my mother in those videos, but she controlled the dynamics of the entire family. So my father didn't protect me. A father's job is to protect. And I wasn't protected by the one that was abusing me. And in fact, I took on the role of the protector in the family unit, trying to protect my older sibling, because I was the scapegoat and they were the golden. So by me taking the punishment and bearing the burden and wearing the cross in the family as the troubled one, the crazy one, the dysfunctional one, that absolved them of all their sin. So I went through life wanting a family, wanting to have what other people had. And I twisted and contorted and tried my very best to do anything and everything I could to create that, by conforming, by masking, by developing a thicker skin, by tolerating, by keeping silent, by not calling things out, by walking on eggshells, by sucking it back, all of these types of things. Until it got too much. It got too much. And on this awakening journey, I don't know what happens, but it's like the lighter we get, when the awakening is undergoing, the more light we develop, the more we irritate the shadows in others. And I've told the story in other videos, how when I was trying to escape from my marriage that was abusive, and I turned to my mother, you know, always hoping. And that's the thing, is you're always hopeful. Maybe this time will be different. Maybe this time I'll get empathy. Maybe this time, you know, and I turned and said, listen, I want a divorce. I've asked for a divorce. And her response was to tell me that I was unlovable, that I was making a huge mistake because nobody ever would love me, that I was incapable, and then she was going to proceed. I could see that she had sat down and made a list of things, and I hung up the phone. And that was one of the last times that I spoke to her before her passing. And I don't know if people can appreciate that when you're at your most vulnerable and you turned to the person who's supposed to, by default, support and empathize and show compassion for you, and instead they burn you down. They just burn you up. It felt like, literally felt like I had just had a nuclear warhead that just landed on my head, and I was, the PTSD that I started to experience was unreal. Like, it was absolutely unreal. So I went into like absolute burnout with PTSD, and so society would look at that as saying, you know, I'm disordered, when that reaction is a normal reaction to a catastrophic situation. And so this is the problem with the cycle that is an abusive family system, is that an individual who's been cornered into the role of scapegoat and or, you know, the black sheep of the family. Interesting that they're all like, I don't know, lambs, you know, the sacrificial lamb. Nobody takes into account what these individuals go through that have been traumatized their whole life. And then from the trauma, develop normal human responses to environmental stimuli. But those normal human responses to environmental stimuli have been turned on them and then labeled them as disorders. You are disordered. So I was labeled with major depressive disorder, general anxiety disorder, and agoraphobia, that I was like, no. And the reason I rejected agoraphobia is because you could plant me at Montebello Rock Fest with 100,000 people, the biggest freaks that you can possibly imagine, you know, 4-foot tall mohawks, tattoos, piercings, leather, just the weirdest outfits you can possibly imagine. And I'd feel like I was with my people. I'd feel at home. I'd feel safe. Because I was amongst the freaks. I was amongst the weirdos. I was amongst the black sheep and the scapegoats and all of those that had experienced not being part of something, so that they disconnected through the rebel energy and said, I'm not conforming. I refuse to conform. Take your bullshit and I'm out. And so, you know, I've often joked that if I were being attacked and in front of me I saw two individuals, one of which was a motorcycle driver covered with tattoos, and over here was somebody who looked like super nice in a three-piece suit, I'd run to the motorcycle dude faster than you can imagine, because I know I'd be safe with him. Because this whole ideology of don't judge a book by its cover has played out in my life routinely, because on the outside looking in, it's quite possible, if not probable, that my family would have looked like just this lovely, wonderful, upper middle class, nice family. But as we learn in fairy tales, and I love fairy tales, even though I think the majority of them are twisted and the lessons are lost, is, you know, that perfect apple in Snow White is the poisoned apple. So sometimes things that look like perfection are deeply embedded with poisonous energy, very toxic energy and abusive energy. And, you know, Snow White fell into the grasps of whom? A hunter. He was set out to kill her. We don't look at that. We think, oh, this is a love story. Yeah, well, I kind of fell in love with the hunter too, who set about trying to make my life a living hell. So, you know, do be careful of how we twist things, because how we twist things is gaslighting. It's societal gaslighting. And so one thing that we are trying to break free from with all these energies that are coming in is to break the cycle of being ensnared in toxic and poisonous situations, even though those situations might present in a certain energy or a certain way. They may look a certain way. And it's through obligation that we stay stuck in these situations. And even Snow White found herself family and protectors in amongst strangers, which very much bodes true for me in the last few years through my awakening process, because it is strangers that have shown up for me in ways I've never experienced in my life. It's my followers. It's people that I met divinely through all kinds of, I was just drawn to you, very strange situations that have become my family. They have kept me alive through this. You have, my watchers, you guys have kept me alive through these shifts and changes, these crises, one after another, as tower moments have come in and absolutely destroyed my reality that I once lived in. And that's because the reality that I once lived in was illusion. It wasn't real at all. A close to 14-year marriage was all lies. The entire thing was lies. And, you know, this make-believe family that I had was based on all lies. Because of my wanting it so bad, I wanted to believe the lies. And then when it started crumbling all around me and I reached out for help, I was not given help. Instead, I was given the opposite energy of being insulted further. It's funny to me because I did reach out to extended family. Put that in air quotation marks, because you know, they've never been in my life, I can't recall a single phone call I have received in the last 30 years. And I reached out in desperation as more and more things in my 3D realm were crumbling around me. And I told them about my YouTube, which I guess they didn't like. And for the first time ever, I started receiving thumbs downs on my videos. So my family is doing the opposite of supporting me, and the strangers are the ones that are supporting me. It's everything went into a world of opposites. Everything. For the first time in my life, I'm hearing things from people who have been following my journey, and I'm being told things like, I'm proud of you. You're doing a good job. You're inspirational. You're helping me. Your truths and standing in your truths has made me see things in a different way. I feel heard. I feel understood. Thank you. I love you. Like, all of these types of energies are like, what is happening? Like, you don't even, I can't even understand. I had lived so closed off before my awakening process, so scared to make any ripples, because anytime I made any ripple at all, I would get the thumbs down. And I'm still getting the thumbs down from family, and that's because the family of origin is not our family of origin. It's not my family of origin. I've never known family. Not truly. Not in what you think that it is, what you want it to be, what I wished it was. And so I had to go through a long process of grieving what I wish it was. And I wish I hadn't have been triangulated against. I wish that I hadn't have been the scapegoat. I wish that people had taken the time to actually get to know me. I wish that I could have found ways to make it work. I wish all of these things, but none of those things are reality. And so when you come to this place in your spiritual awakening where everything is crumbling around you and you're starting to recognize the bullshit, there comes a place where you're like, I need to cut myself free of this. I need to let go of this attachment to something that isn't kind, isn't caring, isn't loving, isn't supportive, isn't protective. It just isn't. Because when we start to accept what is, we also have to accept what isn't. And I did a video the other day talking about, accepting what is in regards to your own truths and your own feelings and connecting into that energy. Please go watch that if you missed that one. But today I'm talking more about accepting what isn't. And so if you are going through that part of your journey where you're looking at family structure and looking at obligation versus things like respect, integrity, honesty, honor, loyalty, and you're not getting those, then let me tell you it's okay. It's okay to walk away. It's okay to say, I've had enough of this. I'm going to protect myself. I'm going to honor myself. I'm going to speak my truths. And if people don't like that, there's nothing I can do about it. Because in walking away, it's actually the kindest thing that anyone can do. Because you're walking away from the lie. Leaving them to sit in it, face it, not face it. What they choose to do with it is really none of your business. But as long as you stay in it, you don't give them the space to hold themselves into their own level of awareness. And maybe they'll never wake up, and maybe they will, and maybe they'll come back, and maybe they won't. It doesn't really matter, because once you free yourself from the cycle of abuse that has been a generational curse, you then begin to resonate out into the energies outside of yourself and attract into you your real family of origin, that being your soul family, your soul tribe. And I just did a video on soul tribe not so long ago as well, and it blows your mind. It absolutely blows your mind when all of a sudden you've gone from your whole life of being treated less than to finally being seen, heard, understand, and treated with dignity. Because I'm not disordered, despite what people might want to say. I had normal human responses to incredibly toxic and traumatic environmental factors that I have spent the last 5 years intensely healing and doing everything you can possibly imagine to save myself, because the imprint in your nervous system is real. The imprint and the damage that's done to your mind, your brain, there's actual physiological responses to being abused. And as long as we keep looking at individuals as separate parts and looking at them as like, oh, you have all these health disorders, or you must not be disciplined with your eating, or you have all these addictions, you must have demons. Oh, you must be something wrong with you because you have these mental disorders of anxiety and depression. You must be flawed. As long as we keep painting these ridiculous stories on top of ourselves and on others, stigmatizing them, as long as we do that, we're not taking into account the wholeness that is the spiritual experience of being human. The soul coming down and experiencing horrific environmental factors, horrific societal standards that are meant to collapse as we birth a new age. Tolerating the intolerable is not an act of normalcy. Being sane in an insane society is not sanity. What is normal? If normal is dysfunctional, traumatic, and abusive, then that really is the stink. Not how my body, mind, and soul has been forced to respond to the stink. That needs healing. That is not the root cause. So if you are sitting in the energies and worrying that, there's something wrong with you, you're different, you're on the spectrum, you have disorders, you have diagnoses, you have labels, fuck them all. Fuck them all. You don't need to pick that up and put it upon you, because all of those labels minimize the truth and gaslight reality. And the reality is, we as a society don't know how to parent our children. We don't know unconditional love. We have wars. We treat people and dissect people on the health and wellness into dis-ease. And all of these things, it's possible to heal when you alter your perspective and stand back and look at it from the perspective of wholeness, from the perspective of yes, shitty things happened to people and they responded by becoming shitty people. And I empathize. I do. I empathize greatly with those that are stuck in the mindset of hurt people, and that's acceptable. I empathize because they lack the awareness or the perspective to understand that hurt people can heal. And healed people heal people. Healed people heal people. And so that's what I'm trying to do. And I'm going to support as many of my fellow light workers, starseeds, scapegoats, way showers, black sheep. I'm going to support you all. Because what your mission has been is something that most can't even fathom. Most can't fathom, and that's it. Most can't fathom how you have gone from being treated like absolute shit and never lost your spark and never conformed to that version of normalcy and never succumbed to becoming a hurt person that hurts people. So to all of you out there that still have empathy in your heart and still know how to show up in the world with kindness and compassion despite your pain, you are fucking warriors. You are my heroes. You are my family. And I love you. I love you despite the scars. I love you, in fact, probably more so for your scars, for your imperfections, for your oddities, for your weirdnesses, and for your freakishness. You people are magnificent, miraculous, and I am so proud of you. And I am so, so grateful. Peace out.